Lately I've been thinking about this life and how it brought me here. Staring at this man in the mirror, I see him often. He'll wipe my tears. Only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes. Certain things don't like to talk about, but I'll always remember. The chaos in my mind turned my heart out in November. I'm surrounded by too many doors, not sure which way I entered. But I'm rocking with my loved ones, let you know that front and center. Found out my skin's tough as leather, I can storm through any weather. Addiction was the hardest battle I ever endeavored. It takes a lot of effort to apply all of this pressure. Being higher than propellers only drove me through the shredder. I need some hope right now. Can you spare some hope right now?
Welcome to the Message Hope podcast, where the hope stands for hearing other people's experience. My name is Adam.
My name is Mike, and today we have Kieth on the podcast. I've known Kieth about a year and a half now. Adam, you've known him quite a bit longer. So
I know Kieth for about 12, 13 years now. Yeah. We were actually clean in the same city for a little while. So Kieth actually used to give me rides to work, bro. Like I was like doing this, what was it? Like what are those job things called? Temp agencies, bro, right? And I would get a call, and he would take me to work. He did some tattoos for me, the one on my leg back then.
In the garage?
In the garage,
11th Street,
yeah. And so I know Kieth for a while, and it's cool to be clean with him again. And we'll talk about your clean time and how long you've been around and all that stuff eventually. But, how you doing today, Kieth?
Good, man.
Thanks
for having me on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor for us to have you, bro.
Yeah,
it really is.
Sure.
Yeah, you have a cool, unique story that I think that people need to hear, and I think that's the purpose of this podcast is to bring people on here that could carry a message of hope. So, what was it like for you growing up?
I was raised by my whole family. Man, I come from a family of addicts.
Okay.
Like my whole family they were all on drugs from the time I could remember. I was actually born in New York.
Really?
So, yeah, and I'm the youngest of 4 siblings. So I had 2 older brothers and an older sister. And we moved out here. My mom moved out here to get away from my dad when I was like 2. So
okay.
I was Cali raised. But,
right.
We moved to Long Beach, and I was raised, watching basically everybody like get high. You know what I mean? And there was a lot of violence and a lot of. Okay. And it's funny because that's like, from my childhood, that's like most of what I remember is all the like drugs that were done around me, and it's a big part of my like childhood. I was just raised around it, So it was like kind of, I don't want to say it was normal, but I was up until 8, my parents were, got heavily into drugs, and, my brothers and sisters. But my middle brother actually had to take me out of the house and get legal custody of me. And so I was raised from 8 to 16 by my brother.
Oh, wow.
And so I was kind of, I was uncomfortable all growing up. I was like a weird, skinny little kid with crooked teeth. And I was always awkward. You know what I mean? I never really felt like I fit in. I got into like music really young. That was kind of my thing. Like, I started listening to like punk rock music and heavy metal music, and that was kind of my like outlet, my first outlet. I had a kind of a traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
It was pretty traumatic, and the things that I don't think a 7, 6, 7, 8-year-old should see.
Right.
I was seeing all kinds of stuff. From 8 to 16, I was raised by my brother, who was also, he was really responsible. But it was like the relationship we had, like I really didn't know him, and he did the best he could to raise me. But it was like, how it would be if your older brother was raising you, It was like,
how old was he? Like, how much older than he was?
He was 21 when he got custody.
Okay.
He was young.
Oh, wow.
He was young, yeah. I think about that now. I'm like, man, when I was 21, if I could have raised an 8-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So he did an all right job, though. I turned out okay, Like I didn't grow up being real violent or like, I had this addiction thing, but I think I'm pretty well mannered. I think he did a decent job. He raised me, and it was just like, here's $20, go hang out with your friends type.
Yeah.
I never was grounded. It wasn't a normal, like, traditional, like, upbringing, you know what I mean? I watched him party. He was a partier, and, you know, everyone in the 80s, you know, was kind of partying, doing coke and all that stuff. And so it was like, I didn't like it. Like, I remember just the way it was with, you know, watching my mom and my stepdad, like they were doing heroin and all that stuff, and watching it, and they never hid it from me. So nobody ever, maybe they tried to, but they didn't do a very good job, because I remember it all. You know, I remember seeing everything. And you know, by the time I was, you know, 13, the first, you know, it was music. That was my first outlet. It was music, and then I got into skateboarding. And I actually had I got into skateboarding, and that was like my second outlet. Like, there was music, and then there was skateboarding. And I got really heavy into skateboarding, and I had skated contests, and you know, I even got like a board shop sponsorship. And it's kind of like, what I'll talk about later on is like, you know, I know we're talking about the addiction stuff and recovery here, but the addiction, basically, when I started smoking pot, that was like the first thing I started doing. And later on in life, that's always the thing that stopped my my ambition to do the good things that I was doing. So when I was doing this I had this really promising thing that I could have done with skateboarding, and you know, as soon as I found like alcohol and started smoking pot, like it kind of fell on the wayside. You know what I mean? And that became the number one thing.
Yeah.
And it became later on in life. I saw a pattern with that. You know what I'm saying?
How old were you when you found weed and alcohol?
About 13.
Okay. And
it's not like I found it. Like, I mean, it was right there in my house.
Yeah.
You know, and like the way my brother was like, you know, if you're gonna do this, I'd rather you do it here with me than be out on the streets. And you know, I did it at home with him, and then I would go out in the streets and do it with all my homies. You know,
and that's like a delusional thinking.
It's totally delusional,
right? Because my mom like had that same idea. Well, you and your friends could smoke in the backyard and drink in the backyard and fight. Like, we used to have like one-on-ones in my backyard. You know, I mean, it wasn't a backyard; it was in the backyard of these apartments, but it was like the back part of it,
patio.
Yeah. So like you know, but like. And I think about stuff like that. Like, that's a delusional thing. Oh, here, son, let me have you smoke here so I know that you're safe. Which, like, I understand the concept, but it's delusional, bro. Like, for me, with my kids, I'm like, no.
I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine it, like, being like that with my daughter.
No.
And it was like that with a lot of the people that I was around when I started smoking pot. Like, all the older people that were in my apartment. I grew up in apartments, man. So, like, it was like everybody in the apartments got loaded. Like, everybody, like, partied. And they all partied. Everyone partied with each other. And it was like... I was 13, so I was in like 7th, 8th grade when I started, and all the people that I was, you know, partying with were like all older, in their 20s. You know, I think about that now, and I'm like, dude, I couldn't imagine. Like, I remember going to my middle school as an adult, going back to my middle school, and I was with a friend, and we were going to pick up her twins, and same middle school I went to, we pull up to, you know, pick up her daughters. And all the kids are getting out of school, and it was the same school I went to, and all the 7th and 6th and 7th and 8th graders are getting out of there, and I'm like, look at these little babies. Like, they were so little, and I was like, that's when I started partying, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, and these grown adults were like just handing me whatever, you know, and I just couldn't imagine, like, as an adult, like, doing that, you know what I mean? I guess it was a different time you know, this is the 90s, early 90s, you know, late 80s, so. Yeah, so I started, you know, doing that, and then, you know, it escalated real quick. Like, the city I was living in at the time, like, there was people, you know, like I said, like late 80s, early 90s, you know, in my city, people were making meth. They were cooking meth, and my sister's boyfriend was actually one of the cooks in my city, and so, and I was kind of always against it. You know, my sister was already, you know, kind of doing her thing, and everybody in my city was, you know, tweaking at that time, and I was against it for a long time, and then until that one day, like, one of my best friends, like, before school, I went to his apartment, and he's all, you gotta try this, and I did a line of speed, man, and like all my insecurities, like everything that like I ever worried about, like everything just like went to the wayside, man, and it was like I felt like Superman. I felt like I could talk to anybody, I could talk to girls, and from that day on, like, I fell in love with that drug, man, and I chased that. I think I was like 14 when I first did speed, and I continued to chase that for another couple of years, and it went downhill real quick from 14. So I'm going to touch on this real quick. When I was 8, when my brother took me out of my house and got custody of me, my mom, ended up being like, she went deep in her addiction and ended up being homeless. And when I was 16, we got my brother had gotten a phone call from the hospital, and we found her. After 8 years, we found her, and my brother went and picked her up, and all of a sudden my mom's back in my life again. And, she was in bad shape, and, living on the streets and the alcohol, and she had cirrhosis of the liver. She was doing pretty bad. And the doctor basically told her, like, you can't drink anymore. It was at that point, like, it's going to kill you. And within a few months of her staying with us, she had, everybody was doing speed, man. And she jumped on that train, started doing a little bit of speed, and she had a stroke, and it ended up killing her, dude.
Wow.
And at 16, already, I was, dabbling in like LSD and mushrooms and, all that. It was kind of like a scene at that time. Yeah. And, I didn't know what to think, like, as far as my mom coming back into my life. And my brother ended up leaving me with her and met a girl and ended up moving out and starting his own little family. And so I'm left with my mom, who's like, has untreated, addiction. And, she started with the bottle. I started finding her vodka bottles under our couch and stuff. And then, and then she started dabbling with the speed, and everybody couldn't take it, man. And so I didn't really know how to handle that. And I was already using, I was already partying, and it was fun. It was cool, but it became not fun real quick. Right. I didn't know how to deal with the emotions of like my mom, like coming back into my life and then just,
right.
Having this like OD almost from the speed. And so I was kind of tossed, like my whole childhood, I was kind of tossed around from, because my brother left with my mom, and then my mom couldn't take care of me. So my older brother tried to like, step in, and I wasn't listening to him. And I just, I got really heavy into the meth. I stopped going to school. I got put on probation for a vandalism charge. Like I got caught graffitiing with my little graffiti buddies or whatever. And the summer between 9th and 10th grade. So that summer, I got picked up on a no bail warrant, and that was my first real heavy consequence, like personal consequence. My mom passing was a pretty big consequence from drugs, but from my own doing, the consequence was, I ended up going to juvenile hall at 16, and that was it. They took me, and I told them at that time too. I told the sheriff, who had like knew my sister and her boyfriend, and knew like basically my whole family in the city. He waited for me, and I was a little kid, man. I was 16, but I was a small kid. Like I was really like this tiny little skinny kid, and he took me, and I thought I was gonna go for like the weekend, and I was basically like, I was so tired, and I was all strung out on the speed already. And back then in the 90s, like the speed was really strong. I think the bikers were still making it and all that. So anyway, so like I do that, and I get arrested, and I go to juvenile hall, and my sister was pregnant with my nephew at the time, and she showed up to court for me, but they didn't release me to her. She was the only one that showed up. My brother didn't come, and my mom couldn't come. No one else came. And my sister tried to come, and the judge asked her, "Can you take care of this young man?" And she was like, "I can't." She couldn't at the time, like, to be real, like she really couldn't. And she had her own.
Real quick, you said you had 4 siblings?
4, yes.
Did they all have trouble with addiction, or?
Yeah.
Are you the only one?
My brother that raised me, he ended up passing away later in 2000. He passed away from MS. He struggled with it a little bit, but he was really functional. He's a really good dude. Like he worked every day, and but he drank and did all that. So yeah, he struggled with it. My oldest brother, shout out to my oldest brother Matt. He's clean now. He actually he did some time for manufacturing. He went to prison for about 8 years and got out and struggled a little bit. Now he he's clean. No alcohol, nothing. He's absolutely clean, and he goes back into the, he's part of Kairos, so he goes back into the prisons and helps dudes. He got clean through God, through Jesus and all that. So he does that, and he goes back in with the prison ministry. So he's giving back in that way. He's doing really good. He's married. His wife's really cool.
How long has he been clean?
Couldn't tell you exactly. Couple years. He's struggled a little bit with the alcohol, but he's completely clean now. But off the speed, it's been a long time. But I'm not absolutely totally sure on his exact clean date and all that stuff. So, but
and then what about your sister? So your sister struggled.
Yeah, but she's doing really good.
Is she? Good?
Yeah, she's doing really good. Yeah, she's been doing good since she was 19.
Okay.
Yeah, she's 20. She stepped out of it. She turned herself in, did like I think 9 months, almost, I think maybe a year in jail, got out and just like went into a temp agency and stayed with a job, got a career. Like she's doing really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what happened when you went to court and your sister said she couldn't take care of you? What happened from there?
Well, I'm not sure if it was. I think she tried, but like the judge just wasn't having it. She was pregnant when she was in court for me. You know what I mean? And I think the judge just was like, he just basically put me as incorrigible. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going to juvenile hall. So I ended up going to juvenile hall. I became a ward of the court. So and they sent me to a rehab, and that's where I actually like got introduced to recovery. You know what I mean? That's the first time I ever like found out that there was like a different way. You know what I mean? There was, I was so used to like all the destruction and the stuff that was going on. Like I remember when I got arrested, I was like, yeah, take me. Like I didn't want to go back to my city. I thought that like if I left my city, I'd be all right, because I just felt like there was nothing there. My mom had died there. Like, it was just all bad. Like it was, all I had was like just bad, memories, and I didn't really want to go back there. So I went, to a rehab in Santa Monica, and I really didn't have like I was 16, and I didn't have an idea of like, I didn't fully understand addiction. I didn't fully understand like what it meant to like be in recovery. Like I still was, really naive. But I got like the seed was planted, you know what I mean? And I got a taste of what it was like to live like without using drugs. And that's what I did, man. I did that, and I'd like to say I stayed clean, but I didn't. I got kicked out of there after 18 months.
18 months?
18 months I did.
Damn.
Yeah. I was going to high school. We went to high school on the outside. I went to Olympic High School in Santa Monica, in the continuation with all the other, fuck ups, and you know what I mean? And this is in the 90s, man. And it was, I ended up meeting some dudes there, and ended up getting some friends, and some of them graduated and stayed clean and continued to do meetings and all that stuff. And I got kicked. I ended up relapsing in there, and they tested us. They gave us a chance. They tested us, and I ended up relapsing again. They tested us, and I was the only one that was probation out of there, and everybody else was private. So like they were through insurance, and I got sent back to juvenile hall, and everybody else got sent home to their families. And after we all got kicked out, because the whole house, it was like 15 of us, the whole place got kicked out, and they ended up shutting the youth facility down after that. Wow. And maybe that's on an amends list I have or whatever, but like, you know what I mean? So I got sent back to juvenile hall, and then I got sent to another place in Lakeview Terrace in San Fernando Valley called Phoenix House. And I got sent there, and I did 22 months in that place.
Damn.
That was more of a lockdown facility. It was hard to do that, but like, what other choice did I have? Like, I didn't really know what my family was doing. And I just went with the flow, This is what it is, and I learned a little bit in there, I guess. I graduated from that place, and they're not emancipated, but like they, because I didn't have I had family, but they weren't really involved with what I was doing, like my brother had his own family going on. My brother Matt, I think, was in prison. I think he might have been in prison at that time. And I'm not sure. I really didn't know where anybody was, to tell you the truth. Like, I didn't know where my family was. I ended up graduating there and went to live with a friend's family. And then I ended up going back to West LA, Santa Monica, Venice, and continued to stay clean for a little while, and stayed clean for a good little while, like 6 years, I think. And that's where I ended up getting into music. That's where I ended up getting into tattooing. I was staying clean, and like I was saying about the skateboarding thing, like, I did this apprenticeship for tattooing. I started a band that was somewhat successful. We were touring all over, putting out records, and things were good, man. You know what I mean? Things were really good for a while. And I noticed the pattern with me is like when I stay clean and I'm not using, like I have the ability, like all of us, like, we have the ability to do like really good things and really creative and really cool shit, And thing is, I was suffering from untreated addiction, man, and didn't even know it, So, I didn't realize at the time that this was like a lifelong process of like, when we, like the drugs, like someone was just talking about this, like the drugs are our remedy. The drugs are my remedy for the disease that I have. Those are my go-to because I feel insecure and I feel like, I don't want to face the world, and, I'm irritable and discontent. Basically, that's what I heard. I'm mimicking somebody else, I think. But
the problem with that is that they work so well.
Yeah, the drug. Yeah, they work for until they don't. Yeah, they work for a good little while,
Yeah.
And but every time I've chose to like start drinking again or start using or whatever, everything else goes to the wayside. Yeah. Everything else goes, like all my ambitions to like the band. Like I did it for 8 years, man, and I had a lot of fun with it. It was like one of the best times of my life, And the tattooing thing, like I had a pretty good little career tattooing. I still tattoo to this day, but I would end up, I started partying again, and it lasted for a while. It was fun for a while, partying and doing, but eventually it became, I went to the hard stuff, and then everything else just I'm cool on that.
And it's crazy because like, we could stop using for X amount of time, right? But if we don't get no recovery, that shit's not going to last long, bro. Like you were clean for 6 years, right, doing well, and then the moment you pick up and use, you're right back to where you left off at, bro.
Yeah,
right back to the insanity.
I didn't have an understanding of what exactly this thing, the progression of it. I didn't understand. Like I thought that like because I moved out of the city that I was living in, I thought that was the problem. Because everybody there was messed up, and I just needed to get away from them. So like I went to juvenile hall and I did all that. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to go back to that city, And that obviously wasn't, I had to do a lot of trial and error, man. Like and figure this thing out, and it took a long time. Like I'm what they call a chronic relapser. Yeah. You know what I mean? I bumped my head enough times till I learned. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it took a long time to figure things out, and a lot of because of this disease, because of the addiction, I never really fully finished things. You know what I'm saying? Like I never fully finished, like, and never stuck to anything. And I don't know if that's all addiction or part ADHD or what, but you know what I mean? Addiction has a big part in that, and so like I had this cool career with tattooing and the music, and then I ended up going back to it and ended up doing the speed again, and the speed progressed to where it was like I used to just do lines of it, and then I'd party, and like I was in Hollywood like partying all the time, and like I would be doing like I'd be at the bars and the clubs and shit, and nobody out there really did crystal meth. Everyone partied with coke, and like I didn't like coke, but I did crystal meth, and I kind of did it like by myself. I had like one connection, this buddy of mine who would like bring it to me, but I'd be partying with everybody that did coke. Like I was on coke, and I would just like play it off, and like it's the same thing, but I'd be like, yeah, I'll stay up with them after the bar and like stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning, and nobody really knew I was doing it for a long time. And I kind of lived like that, and it's not a very good way to live. It's there's no freedom in that. Having that like secret, like that closet, like secret, like like not wanting to let anybody know, like you're using is kind of, and that was kind of my thing. Like I just did it solo. I did it by myself. There might be been some girls I would like here and there do it with who like wouldn't frown upon it.
Yeah.
And that's because I was trying to like my ego was like trying to let you know, I had this like whole band thing and the tattoo thing, and I didn't want, you know, get a reputation of like that tweaker, like, you know, that tweak, you know, which ended up happening anyways in the long run, like later on, you know what I mean? Ended up, so I don't know, man.
So was that on that run? When did that one end?
That run ended. So I went on I was apprenticing for tattooing, and I left there and I started working in Hollywood while the music was going on. The band, I ended up quitting the band. The band kind of like, we all kind of went our like separate ways. And I was doing everything at that time. Like I was taking Norcos and doing I always had drugs on me, and I ended up wrecking my car on Franklin in Hollywood on my way to work, and I was on a sick one. I was up for a couple days, and I had this dude pulled in front of me, and I ended up T-boning him. And I thought I was going to go to jail, and I called my sister, like, I'm going to jail. I didn't have a license, like, you know what I mean? And she was like, why don't you just bail Hollywood for a while? Get out of L.A. for a while and come live out here in Rancho, Rancho Cucamonga. And I was like, all right, sounds good, Wherever we go, there we are, man. And I thought, once again, if I left Hollywood, maybe like I could slow down and mellow out, because I was really having a lot of fun out in LA. You know what I mean? I had a lot of fun. I was like hanging out with bands, playing music, and going to shows, and like it was a lot of fun, And but I just that car accident, man, something. I don't know, when she asked, why don't you come stay out here with me for a little while? And I came out here, and like I just started partying out there in Rancho and going to the bars. But like I had like this culture shock, man, because I was getting 86 from every bar I went to. I was just drinking, but every bar I went to, like it seemed like I was getting in fights with people, and I must have gotten 86 from like 7 bars, like in the Pomona, Rancho Cucamonga, Upland area, like just from acting like an idiot, And so anything I do, like it just becomes a problem. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's speed, or anything I put in my body, man, I become a lunatic. So that run lasted up until when I first got. It lasted when I moved out to the Inland Empire from 2008 to like maybe 2010 is when it was like a couple years. A couple years, and then in 2010 I caught a case out here, and I forgot what it was, under the influence or something stupid, and I got put on Prop 36, and that's kind of when like I kind of started, I don't know, just going real far south, you know what I mean? Like there was no more music, the tattooing thing. Like I was working at a shop in Fontana for a little while, but I would get loaded and then I wouldn't want to work anymore. So I would just like tattoo like at motels or whatever. But you know what I mean? Just like I just became like sketchy Keith. Like I said, like how did I get that nickname?
Sketchy Keith.
Sketchy Keith. Yeah, I got this nickname, and it wasn't like really. It was from some dudes at a bar that I think I was flaking on them. Like I was supposed to meet with them for like this band we were going to start. And like, I think we did a couple practices, maybe played a show. But I was so flaky and like just on a sick one that they were just like, Sketchy Keith. Like, and it just kind of stuck. And I even got an article in a magazine. It was like titled Sketchy Keith. And there was like all my tattoo pictures and shit, dude. It was, but 2010, I ended up going to treatment, man. I ended up going to treatment. Like me and my girlfriend at the time, like we ended up going into rehab together. I stayed clean for like 90 days, and it was a new house right here in San Bernardino. Remember that place?
I went there, fool.
Yeah.
You know who else went there?
Oh,
my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That place.
Yeah.
That place isn't there anymore.
No.
I was there at the.
Am I allowed to say IVRS or rehab?
So
Okay, yeah. So
want.
IVRS bought that place. Yeah.
I was there when they bought it.
Were you?
Or I went there after they bought it.
You were there right, probably. I was in there 2010.
I think I was in there like 2010, bro.
Yeah, probably right after me.
Yeah.
Didn't you get an award from there?
Yeah, 2013 for client of the year, bro. Yeah, I fucking cried and everything.
I wanted to get one of those, dude.
Yeah.
So I went there for 90 days, man, and that was the shit. I like that place a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I got introduced to meetings again, and started doing that thing, and
I was another seed.
plant another seed, and that's kind of where my like journey of like recovery kind of like started.
That's kind of the time where we met then.
Yeah, we met in 2011.
Yeah,
was when Charlotte, my daughter, was born.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think we both had the CPS thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
so you got a CPS too after that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
after that, so that was with my ex Heather, and so at 90 days I graduated, and I just went to meet her, and she was already, back doing her thing, and I was like, I'll stay clean while I'm hanging out with you. Don't trip.
Yeah.
And it lasted a day, and then I was back.
I tried that once too.
Oh.
Didn't work.
Yeah. I tried that a lot.
It didn't work at all. It was like, she's like, you need to stay clean. I'll just continue to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
I literally lasted a day. Like I left that treatment center, went to meet her in Upland at the motel, and
at a motel too.
At the motel, and
bro.
already like the homies were there, and like the her friends, and it was just on a cracking. And then 2011 is when my daughter was born, and that whole deal was like eye opening, because it went basically from like I was having fun, I wasn't hurting anybody, I felt like I wasn't, and I was partying, and like there were some bad moments or whatever. For the most part though, like I was just doing whatever I wanted, and it was it was okay, I guess. I had a little bit of a desire to maybe stop, and that maybe I had a problem, you know what I mean? But when through the pregnancy, when my daughter's mom was pregnant, and going through that whole deal, like why I was still getting high was like, okay, now you're like bad, dude. You know what I mean? Now, like, you got this pregnant girlfriend, you guys are homeless, you guys are running around motels, you're selling dope, like you're doing, all this, doing crimes and all this shit. And I at that point I realized that, like, wow, dude, I can't stop. Like, I want to stop right now because I got this pregnant girlfriend, and like but I can't stop. Like, and that's when I really started to feel like really like it was, a big problem, and I was reverting back to like childhood, the way my family was. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like with the whole, it made me feel like how my family was towards me, like getting loaded around me, and like, like the way I was like a little kid, like being around all these drug addicts, and it's like now I got this kid on the way, and I'm doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like history repeating itself in a way, and so in 2011, when my daughter was born, we had the CPS case open, and I tried to do it again. Tried to get clean again, and stayed clean for a little while, like 18 months, I think. That's when I met Adam, and things were okay. But at the same time, abstinence for me, just being abstinent doesn't cut it.
No.
Like we have to do something. Like I have to do something about the disease of addiction. I have this disease that, like, just because you take the drugs away, like that's why we have certain things that we work on ourselves so we don't revert back to that. So we have to do like steps and things like that like basically to where I can be comfortable enough to where like I don't feel like I have to put something in my body to make myself feel better.
And not just that, but like everything that you were talking about, like at the beginning, right? Being around a bunch of drug addicts, right? And like for years, I thought it was normal, and I thought that it was okay, right? Like we laughed about like how we got our ass beat. We laughed about like certain fucked up situations, right? But like just because it's normal in our neighborhood, or just because it's normal in our household, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have an effect on the brain, bro. Right? Yeah. Like now that I'm clean, bro, and I've done some work on myself, like I could identify like when like what happened to make me feel anxious, what happened, like why depression is prevalent in my life, or like and those issues, they need to be talked about, they need to be addressed, right? Because I think like awareness is the most important. It all
stems from our childhood.
It does.
Really.
It does. And not everybody goes through traumatic events like we do, or not, that's just not like a requirement for us to become addicts, right? But like there's something that's fucking us up, right? I tell people that all the time. Like there's pain that you're running from, there's something that you're hiding from, right? You just haven't been able to identify it yet, right? Yeah. And once
it comes with the self-awareness thing.
Yeah, because I was in the same boat in 2010, bro, right? Like I was clean, right? But I wasn't like really doing anything. I was going to meetings. That was cool. Like I like to go to, I even like I just seen a video. I didn't reshare.
And
but
at the time,
like,
you think it's enough.
Yeah, but
you
it's
think
not.
like it's enough. Like I'm fine until like
you're not.
And until you're not, and then you like end up doing it again. And you're like, whoa, I was so like into like not doing this thing and talking about like I love recovery. I'm staying clean for my kids and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then the next day it's like, oh, it's right there, and I end up picking it up and doing it. Like, why do I do that?
Yeah.
We don't have a spiritual, mental, or an emotional defense against it, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We think we got something going because, I've been clean for 6 months. Like, I've been doing my thing, right? Like I feel good. I got this little job. You know what I'm saying? I got a bus pass.
Got the license
I never had a car license, but this time I do.
Got the license back.
But
the
before, all it took was a bus pass and a haircut, dog. And I thought I got something going.
CVS gives you a little
and the EBT card.
And the EBT card.
Yeah,
and
I
I'm
got a
good.
little $200 EBT.
Yeah. And I'm good, bro. Right? But it's not sufficient.
Yeah.
It's not sufficient, and it's not sustainable in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did it twice with 2 different cases. And every time I didn't have to call that Colors phone line,
Oh my God.
I was right back, dude. Both
Sometimes
times.
you get it twice in 1 week, and you got to take the bus all the way to Rancho Cucamonga.
Yeah.
And then they separate you and your girls. What they did with us is they separated our colors.
Yeah.
At first, we were both black colored. So it was like, oh, cool, because we're still together. So when they called we're both the same color, so we both take the bus together, one bus trip, go to Rancho, do a little thing. And then they separated our colors. And we were like, so we had to go twice a week. So we would have to, oh, man.
I remember being the color black.
I was orange and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being black and red. Maybe
Dude,
another
I
color.
was on colors testing so long that I had a year. They repeat the year. So on May 4th, it's the same color as May 4th next year. And me and my friend we were both in treatment together 2 different times. We both had cases 2 different times. And we came up with this whole calendar of what color was which, dude. And the next year, it was the same colors on the same day.
That's funny.
Coming up with the pattern so you know when it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But every single time, every time that accountability was gone, and like,
Yeah.
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
I love recovery. I love being clean. But at the time I was saying that and thinking that, I didn't know what recovery was.
No.
I hadn't applied myself enough to even know what it was.
Yeah.
I knew what meetings were cool. I knew I liked talking to girls at meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew I liked having a job.
It felt good for the time. It felt good. And like, I knew like this is something I want. I just didn't have a full understanding of like what it was that I was doing. Like I didn't have a full understanding of the disease of addiction that like it's insidious.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away because you move cities. It doesn't go away because you got the CPS case or probation. You know what I mean? Like it's not one of those things, And am I going to?
No.
Okay. You could
You're
edit that out, dude, or whatever.
No. So let's talk about towards the end of it.
The end of it?
The last few weeks or months
Before I
at
got
the
clean?
end of this time being clean.
Well, it got bad. I mean, like most of us, I had to come to a complete spiritual and a mental break, man. Where like there was times when I was going into these psychoses that I thought I wasn't going to come back from. Like I thought like I was going to literally, I thought I was going to lose my mind, and I was actually in a psychosis where like I was so paranoid. I thought everybody was talking about me. I couldn't speak, and it scared the hell out of me, man. Like I thought like I was going to be permanently like that.
Like you tried to speak and you couldn't?
I couldn't mentally put words together when people would talk to me. I couldn't speak.
Oh,
like,
wow.
And it was like that for a while, even this time when I got clean, it was really scary, man. And I just came to like this spiritual thing where I just completely surrendered to like everything that I had tried to do before didn't work. And I really I basically just prayed to God, man, like just like help me do this thing. Like I don't know how to do it. Like give me the strength to like really stay clean and try to live a better life, man. And I was humbled by like, I was the last time I actually got high was in LA County Jail, man. And
Damn.
after like so many times of like where I would go in and I'd get out and I'd be like, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna be there for my kids, and I'm gonna like, dude, I'm gonna do good, and as soon as I would hit the streets, it was like if it was in front of me, like we don't have a mental defense. I don't to this day trust in willpower. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't surround myself around anything. Like if, I don't go to bars, I don't do all that. Some people could do it. I just, I don't test the waters with that. But that was the last time. Like, and I told myself, and this treatment facility was supposed to pick me up. And I was like, man, if I test clean, like I swear I'm going to do whatever it takes. Once again, I'm going to do whatever it takes to like really try and get this time. Like, I was 38. I was getting a little older. You know what I mean? I was like, man, I felt like it was like my last chance to like really, get this thing before it was just going to become a life thing where I'm going to end up going to prison or dying. Yeah. So I gave it one more shot, and I've been clean ever since. That was 2016, so I'm coming up on 8 years clean.
Nice. Hell yeah.
And the only thing I did different this time was like, I don't know if I really put the effort in to really work on myself. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know if like this is a promotion, but I like worked 12 steps. Yeah. I never did that before. I put all my ideas to the side. Like I dropped all ego. Like I quit tattooing. I basically like prayed every day. I went into a treatment facility that was straight faith-based, even though I didn't want to, you know what I mean? And I humbled myself completely. I completely surrendered to anything that like I thought I knew about anything really. Yeah. And I started from the ground up,
And at this treatment center.
Oh.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll trip on this. So that's what we're going to talk about, right? Yeah. So the first night I get to this treatment center, I got there it was a Friday. Yeah. And me and Adam had knew each other, but Matt, we went our own ways. Mm-hmm. I think we both relapsed.
And I knew that he was still getting loaded because he would post on Facebook, and we talk about this, right? Because he would post on Facebook, bro, like $20 tattoos over there, like desperate, bro. Like,
I'm giving out deals right now for tattoos.
Like like when you start seeing people sell like diapers and like all this stuff, like this food's loaded again. You know what I'm saying? And that's every time I would see his post, I'm like, oh. Keith is getting loaded, bro.
I still see those posts.
Yeah, me too.
Little pop-up posts, like trying
for people you thought were doing good. You're like,
just
what?
Bottom line promotion, like shameless promotion posts. You know what I mean?
Like it'd be like deals, like all this pictures of his tattoos.
Best offer.
And the reason why I see them because he would tag me in them. Right, because I still get memories. I'll see memories of him tagging me in these tattoo posts and saying like, "I got 5 deals." You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the struggle was real for sure on that one. Yeah. So when I got to treatment, like they picked me up from jail. I got to this treatment center, Salvation Army. I'll put it out there. Whatever. I got to Sally, and it was that Friday, man. I had tested. Well, I think I tested clean. I don't know. I got high 3 days before, and they tested me and like said welcome. Yeah. And so I broke down crying when they said I tested clean. I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, like, and that was a key moment of clarity too, man, because it was like, wow, like, okay, I just tested clean whether I did or not. Like this dude like just showed mercy on me, and like I really need like it was like. Kind of like God shots or the universe telling me like, like, okay, here we go. And so I get there on the Friday and I'm tore up, dude. Like I'm so shot out. Like my life is a fucking mess. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just know like my way isn't working, and I'm sitting there and I hadn't seen you. This is 2016 when I got there. I hadn't seen you since about 2011, maybe 2012. Yep. He relapsed, came back, and I stayed out from 2011 to 2016. So I was out for 5 years. And I'm in there, and this, I'm sitting in this group of, 100 dudes, and then Adam came in and walked in, and like for me, like that was like whoa, like I seen him, I was like, hey, what's up, man? And then he shared his story, dude, and I was like in tears, like just right there in the front row, like, and that was another like that's why you're a big part of my recovery is because of that first day, like because it was all these little events, like these little God-like moments or whatever little moments they were, was a big part of like I looked at that. I don't know if it was because I was maybe like coming down off the drugs, or I choose not to look at it like that. But it was all like this divine like thing where like, wow, I think you had what, like 3 or 4 years. Yeah, 3 or 4 years at the time. And I was like, holy shit. Like, and that was a connection because here's somebody that I knew when I was trying to get clean in 2011 that was trying to get clean. And now he's clean and he's up there, you know, shooting this fire. It was like flames coming out. It was like what would our friend say? It's sexy. It was like he was like spitting fire out of his mouth, man. And you know, I was like, he's crying. You were up there like, and I'm fucking sitting there just tearing up because I'm like in this brand new recovery center, like don't know what I'm gonna do. And like it was like that first spark of hope. You know what I mean? And I did whatever they told me in there. You know, and I graduated. I did the whole sober living thing, and I started like just putting one foot in front of the other, man. And all the things that I always thought like I would never be able to do, I was able to do. And I had, you know, let fear, like I was paralyzed by fear, man. I was so scared of like life in general that like it paralyzed me from even trying to like, you know, get it together. And my mentality was like, oh, my kids are better off without me. My family's better off without me. And my mentality was like, oh, I'm not hurting anybody, but I'm only hurting myself. And like, you know, like after doing a lot of like work on myself and I realized that like those were all lies that I told myself because of fear. And like fear kept me just stuck, dude.
And so there's one thing, like, so I actually use you as an example. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I use you as an example with newcomers. We'll just say that, right? In certain places, you know, they come in and they're like, oh, I'm an iron worker and all they do is drink. Or they come in and like, you know, I'm a sous chef and everybody does coke, or I'm this. And I'm like, you know, I have this buddy of mine, Kieth, right, who's a fantastic tattoo artist, right? But when he got clean, he and you could go to a tattoo shop and make good fucking money, right? But you chose not to go to a tattoo shop because I remember we had this conversation because you said that scene always leads you back to picking up and getting loaded again, and it's just not worth it today, right? Yeah. And so I tell people like there are sacrifices that we're like my sacrifice was having to let go of the mother of my kids. Right, that was a sacrifice that I needed to make in order for me to get clean. Because I mean, most of us know. I mean, when we have a partner who's getting loaded, and we hold on to these people, right? We hold on to these careers, we hold on to these ideas, almost to the death of us, right? Yeah. And so like I tell people, like, man, my buddy Kieth's a fucking fantastic tattoo artist. You know what I'm saying? And he gave up that whole scene, that whole career. Like now you tattoo, but only people in recovery, and only on your free time, you know, it's not.
I had to really, like I said, like put everything I ever knew aside. Like I had to completely like humble myself from all ego, and like that was part of like my ego. Like that was part of like my go-to. Like, oh, I'm a tattoo artist. I could do whatever. I can get a job like that. I never had to work for it. I was walking with my portfolio, like, hey, can you hire me? You know what I mean? And then I'm back in the shop, and then next thing you know, I'm like drinking, and then I end up back, and there's a lot of my friends. I have friends, dude, that can drink, that tattoo, and they work in a shop, and they've worked for years in shops, and they drink, and they never had an issue. But that's not me. You know, I start drinking, and then they're like, "Where's Kieth?" and then they don't see me. I'm showing up to the shop 3 days later. You know, like and it's coming to that realization that like, okay, like, dude, like I have to figure this out, and if I have to like. Dude, I worked when I first got clean, man. My first job was in a warehouse at Burlington warehouse, dude, like scanning boxes and shit, dude. Like, and that was weird. Like, that was weird, you know? And I was in there just all tattooed like I am, just scanning, working my ass off. Grateful. So grateful to, like, that that little temp agency gave me this job. Just grateful as fuck in there scanning boxes, like, just getting it, making it like a game, like, fucking, like, oh, I'm making my numbers up. You know what I mean? Like, I was grateful, man. And I feel like it was the best thing, like the best choice I could have ever made was just like doing all the things that like maybe I didn't want to do. Like I didn't want to go to that treatment facility. I definitely didn't want to go to jail. You know? But I knew when that cop arrested me, I told him, I was like, just take me. Like I'm ready to go. You know, I wasn't scared of the jail. My thing was I'm scared of life. I'm scared of the stuff that the normal society, you know, like I can do the jail and all that like lifestyle shit. It's the being a productive member of society, which I am today. That was the scary thing for me. Like I never felt like I was like, I had this lie I told myself growing up, like, or like actually in adulthood when I was getting high was like, oh, well, this is your destiny. Like you're just like the rest of your family. Like this is how you're supposed to go out. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's not like that today. Like today's just, I went to school and I got a little career. I got a little truck driving career, and I'm doing that. And I do my little tattoo thing when I want. And I got my kids in my life. I got friends and family. I got my sister and my brother. And things are good, man. It's it's weird sometimes. It's weird, but it's an ongoing it's an ongoing process, man. That like, it doesn't matter. Almost 8 years, or 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like it's I've come to the realization that this is something that's like lifelong, and it's constantly like working on yourself. I don't have any desire to live like that anymore. I don't. Like all the chaos and all the things that it ended up being, and I've done enough research from 16 or like younger than 16, but 16 was like my first real consequence. And my family too, like, like it's like my whole life up until now, it's like everything that's ever been bad has been because of drugs and alcohol. Right. Everything that's ever like negative or bad has been a direct result of, the abuse of whatever substance, so.
How quick after you got out of that Salvation Army did you get busy doing the work, in your step work right away?
While I was still in treatment, like I got a sponsor. My Michael was I don't know, he passed a couple of years ago, but I ended up getting a sponsor. This guy Michael, loved him to death. Still love him.
Good fucking dude.
He's what I needed at that time. He was like the dad I never had, and he lived right down the street from me. He would, he was the one who he would come to my sober living. It was actually right when I graduated treatment. I went to sober living, which is part of the same program. Yeah, I was over on Fifth and G, Spruce and G, like the host roll right there, dude, like there on the corner. And he would come there, and I started getting busy with him, man. And he walked me through all 12 steps and thoroughly. And he would push me when I didn't want to, like, because we can, we get a little like comfortable and we get a little lazy, and I should probably do that step, and and he wouldn't take any of that shit. He'd show up at my house. If I didn't answer the phone, he was at my house, at my doorstep. What the fuck are you doing? Are you crazy? What are you doing? Like, he was the shit. And he walked me through all those 12. And I think those 12 steps is what really freed me. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm of service today. Like, that's a big thing, too, for me, is, like, being of service. I work a lot of hours. And, a lot of people say that, like, oh, I work too much or whatever. But, like, I still have time for a commitment. I've always had some kind of commitment. Like, like right now it's on a meeting level. I just took another, commitment. So I'm of service in that way. For me, it's always... I have to stay connected, give back. I got sponsees and stuff. Like, it's not one of my strengths, I think, is, sponsorship. I try. You know what I mean? It's not one of my it's not one of my strengths, but I'm definitely of service, and I stay in service.
I think that might be how you feel, but they asked you. Yeah. So you're doing something right, bro.
I try, Yeah. I try. It's just one of those things. It's just weird for me, It's just definitely but that's part of it. Is just whether you feel weird or not, just do it,
Yeah. And Mike was like the epitome of old school recovery, bro.
Old school.
That fool didn't give. He didn't play. He told you the truth. He was loud. He was passionate, bro.
Some people didn't like him for that.
I loved him for that, bro. I loved him because and bro,
I love that, dude.
I mean, he took me on 12-step calls. Like, he would call me like, hey, I need you to meet me here. Like, he didn't give me like options, bro. He was a amazing dude, bro. Yeah. One time I did get mad at him because I was working nights, and he called me and I didn't answer because I'm sleeping. It's 10 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he called me again, and he called me again, and he called me again.
Blow up your phone.
What the fuck do you want, dude?
And
I'm sleepy.
It'd be cool if there was more people with that passion.
I know
that passion. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's needed. You know, it's needed to have that like grittiness and that that aggressiveness when it comes to like saving people's lives. You know, you know, it's a little bit soft nowadays. You know, but you know the sensitivity and all that, whatever. But it'd be nice if you know. I talk about being like that, but. I'm like, you didn't answer the phone? All right, that's the last time I'm calling you, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because you'll
you know?
You'll remember they'll show up to people's houses like 10
like
deep,
that.
bro.
Yeah, that's
you know
how it was. Yeah.
Everybody like, you know, you're detoxing, sleep on my couch, bro.
Exactly.
Like,
you know? Yeah.
That's one thing that for me, like I want some old school recovery, but like my house is for me and my kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? I might let you sleep.
There's even Michael would tell me that there's got to be like some kind of like boundary, like when it comes to that, like you know, it's every situation I think is individual when it comes to that, you know, because you'd be like, you know, you bring someone into your house and then you know you wake up and all your shit's gone.
Yeah.
You know that you got to be smart at the same time, you know, because like I know how I am in towards the end of my disease, like if it ain't bolted down and like I don't know you, I'm fucking stealing your shit. You know what I mean? So like
I let
you know,
I let one of my sponsees and his girl and his daughter stay at my house, and they actually fucking used in my house, bro.
Yeah,
and it was like heroin, like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, like you know, you guys gotta go. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Ever since then, I was like, I can't bring that around my kids.
Yeah,
bro.
you can't. That's endangering your kids.
Yeah, it
man,
is.
And, you know?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine ever, like, you know, like, with my daughter, man, like, even just anybody, like, if anybody was to drink around her or anything, she's 12 now, and, you know, you know, it's a kind of a getting to, like, it can be a little bit of a scary time, you know, and I always tell her, like, I tell her about the pills, you know, like, hey, like, you don't want to take nothing now, like, it could have, I straight up tell her, anything your friends give you could have fentanyl in it, you know, and it's good to be upfront about that stuff, you know, because.
All right, so we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one question we ask at the end of it is usually like, what do you do for your recovery today? Like on a given week, what does your week look like for your recovery?
I do about 2 meetings a week, sometimes 3. Always in contact. Like I stay in contact with, like, I have what we call a support group. So I have like a couple friends that, like, you know, I talk to. I'm always reading. Like I read the Just for Today. Yeah. I pray. Mainly just like trying to live like in the right way, you know what I mean? Trying to live like I stay honest, you know, to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
You know, I try to be of service. You know, I'm in service at a meeting level. You know, and just in the community too. Like it's important to be you know, and carry myself like. You know what I mean? Like an actual like human being and not like, do dirtbag shit.
Right.
You know, like not like how I was, you know. I've been given this like chance, you know, to like live this life, you know, and I'm grateful for that, man. And like it, you know, I need to stay in gratitude. So I try to stay in gratitude. That's one way, you know. But like being in service in the community too, like when, you know, not throwing my trash out the little shit.
Yeah.
I pushing my shopping cart, like, you know, when I'm done shopping, pushing my shopping cart over to the little shopping cart thing. Like, you know, that sounds maybe dumb, but like that's one of those things. Like, I try to like live right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I lived really messed up for a long time. So,
Yeah.
I think that's basically it.
All right, Keith. Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time and
Thanks for having me.
all right. See you guys next time.
Yes, sir.
Only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes.
Looking at the skylight, thinking of my life like looking for the right state of mind to get my time right. I just hope my time's right. Locked up in the limelight, but you'll never know unless you walked up in my shoes.
As someone who struggled with addiction in the past, how does it feel to be able to give hope to others who are still struggling now?
You know, it's such an honor to be able to hear other people's experiences of life, to see how when faced with the very thing that was sent to destroy you, kill you and take you off forever didn't, but rather you have been given a second chance to give hope and be a light for those who are still in the dark. So don't be afraid to share your message to the world. You never know whose life you might be saving.